Hey everybody, welcome back to another low sodium ham radio video. Today I'm going to give a real quick walkthrough of an update I just made last night to my air fryer. Since its inception here, this has gone through many different iterations, from very rudimentary using an Arrow handheld antenna, then adding a rotor, then a sat controller, and a much more robust mast. This has been a work in progress for quite a while since I've lived out here in Cedar Rapids, and so far this setup remains completely untested, but I want to go through a couple of key components here to show you exactly what my design philosophy was, and you can let me know if you think it's going to work or not. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. First, we have a military surplus Canopy Mast here that comes apart in sections of aluminum pieces, and it's very easy to transport. Unfortunately, the vendor where I acquired these doesn't appear to have any more left, so otherwise I would have bought these up. They're extremely convenient for POTA activations, or as you can see here, in a, we'll call it medium term setup. So I have two of these in use right now, one for my HF and vertical, and my other M² satellite antenna, and then the one I just installed last night, as you can see here, for the air fryers. Now, safety first, as always, because of how heavy and specifically how top heavy this installation is, I want to make sure I have a decent guy system to ensure that in these crazy Iowa winds that we're fairly well protected, both the antenna and the property. So you can see here I've got 3 sets of 2 ratchet straps in a somewhat equilateral triangle configuration, although it's not quite perfect. As you can see here, I've added a sort of counterweight to the center to hold down that center component, and also weight down the bottom of the mast foot, just as an added layer of precaution. It's by no means perfect, but it is a good solution, short of going into a permanent install. Now I'll show you what I'm using here to anchor these guy wires. It's a fairly cheap ground anchor system, very straightforward. Pop this into a drill this into the ground to where the nub is sticking up, and you thread the eye into that receiver, and boom, there you go. I wouldn't recommend it for something significant like a trampoline, but for an application like this, and even for a temporary application for POTA, or camping or whatever, I recommend this system highly. There's all sorts of different variations on Amazon that are available. I would just look at what your capabilities are and what your needs are from a load-bearing capacity standpoint. Here I was just looking for a little bit of extra directional control and stability. If we get a tornado through here, or another derecho, which is a word I recently learned, I don't have high hopes for either of these systems, but I do feel fairly confident that in our average windstorm or average thunderstorm, this should be more than adequate. All right, so moving up, we have 3 runs here of cable. So we have one LMR 600 run, and then we have 2 control cable runs. One's for the azimuth, one's for the elevator controller. I just wound up buying a 100-foot reel of this from DX Engineering and cut it in half and then terminated it on both sides. It seems perfectly adequate for this setup here. So no issues there, and certainly no issues with voltage rating, current rating, if you buy the heavier duty version, which this is. All right, cable managed it, cable managed it. Anyway, moving up the mast, this is where things got to be a little bit more of a struggle. So one of the problems with my previous setup, and my previous setup was about 6 foot off the ground, one of the problems was I should say the rotor caught the cable for one of the coax connections and tore it clean out, which I think there's a video of on the channel here somewhere. Tore it clean out, so I needed a new wiring harness for the 2-meter WEMU Yagi circularly polarized antenna. And that's what these are. These are WEMUs or WIMUs. They're fantastic. Anyway, I had to wait for the wiring harness, so I tried to pay extra close attention here to strain relief on both sides. Obviously it's much more of an issue on the 2-meter side. So I've got multiple strain relief points up there, but that's kind of where that starts and stops, is I don't seem to have any real good way of doing cable management in a way that allows the LMR 600 to flex enough to rotate in both the X and the Y axes, and also in a way that doesn't get caught on the ratchet straps. So we're gonna see how this works. I got about an hour before the next series of satellite passes takes place, but we ran through 2 cycles of calibration cycles using the SAT controller, and nothing seemed to snag and nothing looked like it was gonna snag. But hold my whiskey, I've been wrong once before. One of the other challenges before me is, how do you aim this thing with any degree of accuracy? And the answer is I don't know, but I'll tell you what I did do. So first, as I was installing these awkwardly from a ladder, I made sure that each boom was level. I got this Klein Tools electronic level, which I really like it. This is the first time using it. I like it for a few reasons. Number one, it gives you auditory feedback. So when you're level, it'll continuously beep at you, which is helpful when you can't read the screen. The other thing I really like about this is I yeeted it off the top of my ladder and it works just fine. So highly recommend this. It's got a magnetic bottom, but these are non-ferrous metals by design, so that didn't necessarily help, but highly recommend this. It's the 935DAGL for those who are curious. So I did that, and that more or less got me level on the booms. Now I had to aim it, and as I was playing around with the compass, I noticed the compass on my iPhone. I noticed that this expansion gap in the concrete out here is more or less facing north-south. So the low sodium ham radio channel recommendation here is come out here before operating. Make sure you're, I don't know, more or less in line with the expansion joint here, and send her. Like I said, we got a cluster of passes coming up on a couple satellites, both FM and sideband linear satellites. So try it out, see if it works, see if we can't go through more cable harnesses and break something. In hindsight, really should have probably picked up a couple extra harnesses, just, you know, luck being what it is. If I had done that, I'd never break another one ever. But now that I didn't, I'm almost certainly gonna break both of them, so. All right, well, that's basically a wrap for this video. I wanted to give a quick update on where we're at with this. Also, funny story, both of my neighbors appear to have moved out, which is the ideal time to double the size of your mast and increase the sky space that your air fryers take up without anybody questioning it. So with that, I'm gonna say 7-3. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Hey, before we close the video here today, I just want to give a shout out to Rob, W0CYC, for his help in troubleshooting and fixing and helping me undo the doings that I did that made my setup not work. So thanks very much, Rob. By adding that extra 10 or 15 or so feet to the mast, I've increased the footprint of each satellite, the window, substantially. My first contact was into Seattle this evening, and I've never done that on a bird before in any of the iterations I've had prior. So just wanted to thank you very much for the time and support with all that. And with that, I'll leave everybody with the quick snippet from our QSO. And this was taken from the FM repeater on the International Space Station.
Echo 2, Mike Papa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Echo November 42. Alpha Echo 2, Mike Papa, Whiskey 0, Charlie, Yankee Charlie. It works, dude. Whiskey 0, Charlie, Yankee Charlie from Alpha Echo 2, Mike Papa. Rob, thanks as always for your help, man. Really, really appreciate it. I heard that. You're killing it out west. 7-3, man. Sounds great. Yeah, never done that before, so the extra height is for sure might. So thank you, 7-3.